So welcome everybody to the second hour of Mind Shifters Radio, and today is June 27th, 2023, and our call-in number is 563-999-3581, and press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk to us, and we would love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. And we'll give Michael just a minute to dial in. And I will. Yes. All right. And we are going to Chapter 10 of Michael Singer's Untethered Soul. And I will start reading while we're waiting on Michael to dial in. And this chapter is called Stealing Freedom for Your Soul. Maybe it doesn't use the exact wording that we should use because we don't want to steal. We want to maintain truth for our soul, freedom for our soul. The prerequisite to true freedom is to decide that you do not want to suffer anymore. You must decide that you want to enjoy your life and that there is no reason for stress, inner pain, or fear. Every day we bear a burden that we would not be bearing. We fear that we are not good enough or that we will fail. We experience insecurity, anxiety, and self-consciousness. We fear that people will turn on us, take advantage of us, or stop loving us. And of course we know that you don't love anyone, that you are loved. All of these things burden us tremendously as we try to have open and loving relationships, as we try to succeed and express ourselves. There is an inner weight that we carry. This weight is the fear of experiencing pain, anguish, or sorrow. Every day we are either feeling it or we are protecting ourselves from feeling it. It is such a core influence that we don't even realize how prevalent it is. When Buddha said that all of life is suffering, this is what he was referring to. People do not understand how much they are suffering because they have never experienced what it is like to not suffer. To put this into perspective, imagine what it would be like if neither you nor anyone you know has ever been healthy. Everyone has always had major ailments, so acute that they can hardly get out of bed. In this world, nothing gets done that can't be done near the bedside. If that were the case, then people wouldn't know anything different. They would have to use all of their energy just to drag their bodies along, and there would be no concept or understanding of health and vitality. That is exactly what's going on with the mental and emotional energies that make up your psyche. Your inner sensitivities expose you to a minute-to-minute, constant situation in which you are suffering to one degree or another. You are either trying to stop suffering, controlling your environment to avoid suffering, or worrying about suffering in the future. This state of affairs is so prevalent that you don't see it, just as a fish doesn't see the water. You only notice that you're suffering when it gets worse than usual. You admit you have a problem when it gets so bad that it actually begins to affect your everyday behavior. But in truth, you're having constant issues with your psyche during your normal daily life. To truly see this, compare your relationship with your mind to your relationship with your body. Under normal, healthy situations, you are not thinking about your body. You just go about your business, walking, driving, working, playing, without focusing on it. You only think about your body when there is a problem. In contrast, you think about your psychological well-being all the time. People are constantly thinking things like, what if I get put on the spot? What should I say? I get so nervous if I'm not prepared. That is suffering. That constant anxious inner talk is a form of suffering. Can I really trust him? What if I expose myself and I get taken advantage of? I don't ever want to go through that again. That is the pain of having to think about yourself all the time. Why do we have to think about ourselves all the time? Why are so many thoughts about I, me, and mine? Look how often you think about how you're doing, whether you like things or not, and how to rearrange the world to please yourself. You think like this because you're not okay. Hold on just a minute, baby. Excuse me, I just lost my place. Why are so many thoughts about I, me, and mine? Look how often you think about how you're doing, whether you like things or not, and how to rearrange the world to please yourself. You think like this because you're not okay inside, and you're constantly trying to make yourself feel better. If your body had not been okay for a very long time, you'd find yourself constantly thinking about how to protect it, how to make it feel better. This is exactly what's going on with your psyche. The only reason that you think about your psychological well-being so much is because it has not been okay for a very long time. It's actually quite fragile in there. Just about anything can upset the psyche. To end suffering, you must first realize that your psyche's not okay. You must then acknowledge that it does not have to be that way. It can be healthy. It is truly a gift just to realize that you don't have to put up with or protect your psyche. You don't have to constantly be mulling over what you said or what this person thinks of you. What kind of life are you going to have if you worry about these things all the time? Inner sensitivity is a symptom of non-well-being. It's the same as when the body sends pain and displays other symptoms when it's not well. Pain is not bad. It's how the body talks to you. When you overeat and you get a stomach ache, when you do something that puts too much stress on your arm and it starts to hurt, the body is communicating through its universal language, pain. Your psyche is communicating through its universal language, fear, self-consciousness, jealousy, insecurity, anxiety. They are all fear. If you mistreat an animal, it becomes afraid. This is what has happened to your psyche. You have mistreated it by giving it a responsibility that is incomprehensible. Just stop for a moment and see what you have given your mind to do. You said to your mind, I want everyone to like me. I don't want anyone to speak badly of me. I want everything I say and do to be acceptable and pleasing to everyone. I don't want anyone to hurt me. I don't want anything to happen that I don't like. And I want everything to happen that I do like. Then you said, now, mind, figure out how to make every one of these things a reality, even if you have to think about it day and night. And of course, your mind said, I'm on the job. I will work on it constantly. I'm going to stop right there and let Michael talk for a moment while I get this little girl settled, and then I'll be back if I need to read.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you, dear heart. And welcome, everybody. Delighted that you're here. And as Michael Singer in the book Jeannie's Reading is talking about suffering, I invite everybody to jump on our website, which is whyagain.org. And under media, there are two files, which are the first two chapters of my book, The End of Suffering. This is a book that I started several years ago, and I never did finish. But there are two chapters out there. Actually, it's probably now 17 or 18 years ago, Jeannie and I were on the road, and we were in Sarasota, Florida. And we were speaking at Unity of Sarasota, and the minister there, Don Jackson, friend, bless his heart, he's passed, had been studying my work, and I had shared the book with him, and we did a Sunday afternoon workshop where we took the first two chapters of the book. The book is written somewhat like the Why Is This Happening to Me Again book, where I'm talking to this character, Richard, only it's Yeshua talking to an unidentified character. And the whole idea is that it is based in the work of forgiveness, which is how to alleviate suffering. You know, most people, as Michael's talking about, try to rearrange circumstances. try and control the world, try and change what other people are doing so they don't have to bump up inside of the pain that's in themselves. So the end of suffering is the beginning of a conversation between Yeshua and a character around this idea of why do we suffer and what can we do about it. So if you want to check out those 2 chapters, you might find that interesting. And beyond that, the bottom line of suffering is that it's all sin. Now, you remember that we've elucidated the Aramaic meaning of the word sin, which is an archery term that simply means off the mark. If you fired at the bullseye and you missed the bullseye, the scorekeeper would yell, sin, you're off the mark. That's all the word means. I also like to use it as an acronym, S.I.N, self-inflicted nonsense. We do this whole suffering thing to ourselves. You notice how often someone will talk about how this terrible person inflicted all this pain on them and how hurt they are and everything, and they haven't seen the person for 10 years. I was working with someone actually today, and conversing about their desire to step into a deeper level of the work. And as we started to, the idea was, I really want to heal. And the conversation went forward, and as I started to point out, after listening to her speech, some of the words that she was using, some of the things she indicated through her words were going on, it's like, well, yeah, Michael, I want to heal, but I don't want to go into that stuff. I don't want to deal with that. Well, my offering is that the purpose of life is to kick us right square in the limitation. Life abhors us being diseased. And if we hold a diseased energy, the world is set up so that life will hone in on the diseased energy. I don't care how far away you try to run, life is going to bring it up for you. And the reason for that is because the universe is brilliantly built on this principle of resonance. And resonance means that there is an energy exchange going on continuously between your mind and everything and everyone around you. And anyone that's in resonance with what you're holding in your mind, i.e., I don't want to deal with this pain, the person who has the ability to inflict that pain on you is the only person that can hear that energetic message, that high energy wave that leaves the mind when we think a thought. And because of that law of resonance, it's also been called the law of attraction. We draw people to us, especially according to what we don't want. Because, of course, the more we don't want something, the more we focused on it, the more it's come and bitten us in the butt, the more we said, no, never again, when the opposite approach is where the healing is. Rather than pushing it down, which means pushing it inside, and by pushing it down, intensifying it, that energy that's pushed down is squeezed out into the world. And because of the law of resonance, the only people that are going to be attracted to that particular energy are those who have the matching bag of garbage. In fact, most people are attracted and create relationships based in their matching bags of garbage. And people call those love relationships. You notice what, I think something in the range of 50+% of marriages end in divorce. Why is that? I thought marriage was supposed to be about love. And, frankly, if you look at the great number of the rest of them that don't end in divorce, people are carrying around their bags of garbage, trying to control the people around them so they're not triggered into activity, and trying to avoid what it is that they're carrying within themselves. So it becomes this self-inflicted nonsense. And what we're suggesting is that the opposite approach is where healing lies. Rather than pushing it away and running away from it, stand in the space of, I'm willing to have whatever needs to happen in my world show up to resonate this so that I can look at it. And then, as I start to look at it and I own it and I take responsibility, then literally in an instant, in a fraction of a second, one breath, and those old energetic patterns can be dissolved. Because you'll notice when pain and trauma occur, when suffering occurs, people are invariably holding their breath. And it's the holding of the breath that is the locking down of the energy that intensifies literally the measurable high energy wave that leaves the mind when we think a thought, and it's that high energy wave that draws somebody in to play that situation out with us again and again and again. When I turn around, and instead of the outer focus, you look at how most of us came into the world, and what did the world do? It started to focus us there. Start to make us, oh, look at the shiny toy I have. Oh, look at the education I have. Look at the money I have. Look at the job I have. Look at all the things I can give you. And so people become outwardly focused and don't take the time to go inside and spend time internally looking at what's going on there. And when you look at the amount of trauma and suffering in the world, even the people who look like they're living on top of the world, you look at the expression, just take a look around at some of the big money flowing through the culture, and the misery and the strife and the conflict and the rage and the hatred and the vengeance and the viciousness that goes along with it. What we're suggesting is you change the dynamic of being focused out there, and you start to take time to go inside, become focused internally, and come into relationship with whatever's in there. And if there is any pattern of generational suffering, it is that will assist in dissolving the pattern. When that's allowed to come to the light, and in that space of light there is the presence of love, then the pain and suffering literally begin to dissolve. The dissolution of pain and suffering is called forgiveness, the removal of what never belonged, or the transmutation of what never belonged within the system. And if you're not using that tool, we invite you to go to our website. Again, the website is whyagain.org. And in the upper left-hand corner of the home page, you'll see a link that says Start Here. I invite you to click that link and start to walk through the whole process of forgiveness. There are hundreds of hours of material that will give you everything we know about the forgiveness process. Nothing is withheld. It's all there. And, of course, we're here Monday through Friday from 1 till 2 o'clock, and Dr. Tim's here from noon to 1, in order to support people who have questions about their healing process. So the invitation is to go to work with those tools, and when questions arise, which no doubt they will, we're here to answer those questions. You can also go to your app store on your phone and simply type in the word Heartland, Heartland, Aramaic, Aramaic, forgiveness. What you'll see when you type that into your app store is the world's only forgiveness app. You can download it free. It's specifically designed to be an extremely private app. And on that app, you can tap into either one of two different forms of the reality management forgiveness process, and or there's also a children's game called the Drag On Cling On game, which some adults like to play with as well. It's a simple way of approaching the process of forgiveness. But however you do it, we invite you to, you can also go to the website and just download, print the worksheets off. And on our YouTube channel, there are dozens of videos. We did release just a few months ago the latest version, a 3-hour version of Why Is This Happening to Me Again? Up until a few months ago, that was a workshop that was either part of an intensive or you had to buy the DVD or the CD. But we did a recent rendition of Why Is This Happening to Me Again and put it out on the website free or on YouTube free. And so there are lots of ways to access the material, and we're here to support you in picking those tools up and putting them to work and changing the game of your life. And we're delighted you're here to be part of the conversation. Miss Jeanie, do we have anybody in the chat room or anything happening in the phone queue?
Yank is in the chat room with me. Nobody has, a hand just went up. And I believe it is Terry. I believe this is Terry, 336. You're on the air.
Hi, guys.
Well, hey there, Terry Bowling. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing so good. It's so good to hear you and listen to the stuff. And while you were talking, I did go onto the website, and every time it's like, wow, I got to cancel some goals because there's so much stuff there I can't possibly absorb it with one scan. You know what I mean?
One scan is never going to... It didn't get on there with one scan either, Terry. There are over 20,000 pages now. So, yeah, it's something that takes some time to absorb.
It's incredible.
But our commitment is what we're working to do is to put it out there so that it's available to anybody, and as deep as people want to go, there it is. And, of course, the radio show's here to help to fill in the blanks of what isn't understandable for folks. So.
Yeah, and so even though I've been connected with you now for a little over 20 years, and I've done thousands of worksheets, attended several workshops, spent 2 years at Heartland, I'm just a beginner.
Well, I understand the thought, Terry, because I sometimes feel the same, even now.
And hey,
it's like I'm just really scratching the surface.
Yeah, and it's just like, wow, okay, good, all right, we're going to do a little bit more. Now, you had the pleasure of speaking to my buddy Dan.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I had a nice conversation with him. He sounds like you prepared him well, and he's ready to go for it.
Well, he was introduced to worksheets probably around eight years ago, something like that, 8 or 10 years, I'm not sure, quite a while ago. Him and some of the fellows that we were meeting and working, doing some other recovery stuff, up in the mountains there. And so what comes to mind is, would you share, and Dan's listening today too, and
hey, Dan,
I invited
welcome.
him to jump on. Yeah, I invited him to jump in and ask you a question. He said, well, I might just sit back and listen today. But he is really, really in it. He's opened it up, been doing the worksheets here. We did a few together while he visited me. But what is that little saying that about the three reactions that people have when you really catch on fire with this work, so to speak?
Oh, you mean when you want to share it with somebody else?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of varied reactions. It's like, thank you very much, I'm not interested. Or thank you very much, I understand you have a problem, but I don't have any problems. This isn't for me, I don't need this.
Yeah.
Or, get the hell out of my face. And, what we're inviting people to do, when you really realize what 2,000 years ago Yeshua was inviting people to do, and when he did that directly with them, what is recorded is that half of the disciples that were there said, too hard a saying, and they left. What we're asking people to do ultimately, literally, is to face, surface, and process through every single piece of generational pain within their structures. And it's a monumental task. It's so monumental that it's almost inconceivable, but at the same time, once you realize it's there to be done, what else is there to do? It's like, your life comes from this mass database that you hold, And if there's trauma and drama in it, then what you get out of it is trauma and drama. So when you realize that it's not the external world that's the cause of the drama and trauma, what else is there to do but take on the task of cleaning it up? And, the reason why there's a 20,000-page website and the reason why we've been doing this radio show for the last 12 years is we're doing the best we can to make the technology and the understanding and the support available that inspires people to take it and actually face what's going on in themselves and clean it up.
I was listening to Jeannie's reading, and I missed the first couple of minutes that identified where that came from. Where did that writing come from?
It's a book written by a man named Michael Singer, who actually did the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop about, I'm not even sure, 25, 30 years ago down in Central Florida. He has a retreat center there. And Michael Singer, he's actually a technology guy. He became quite wealthy in the technology world and went into doing spiritual work. He's taken a path toward kind of an Eastern mystic sort of thing. And the name of the book that she's reading from is The Untethered Soul. Freeing yourself as a human being. My interpretation of that, I haven't read his book, but my interpretation would be that it's about freeing oneself, untethering oneself from the generational insanity of the world, getting loose from the fear, the hate, the grief, the pain, the drama, and the trauma.
Yeah, and it brought to mind, and thank you, Jeannie, for reading that. It was a really nice, beautiful reading. And as she was reading that, I remembered there was a little point in my life. This was about 8 or 9 years ago, too, up in the mountains there. And I was really trying to figure out what was it that motivated me and moved me to start seeking a way out, so to speak, a better way. And what it came down to, and this was like very insightful to me, but later on it's like, okay, maybe not so. But what came to me was, hey, I just want to feel better. That's what got it started. I just wanted to feel better. I got so excited about that, I jumped out there and bought the domain name and thought, this is it. This is going to be great. But, in its simplicity, but to me it had a lot of rich meaning, but most people haven't had the same reaction to it that I did. But it summed up exactly what Jeannie was reading,
Yeah. And, no two people have the same reality for anything because no two people have the same brain cells. And from the work you did, that insight was like, whoa, rich with meaning that other people go, yeah, well, they're just words because they don't have the content of the mind. Yeshua talks about his work, and this is in essence what he's saying. He says his work is only for those who have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. And I think we can fairly safely assume that most everybody in the audience had what we call eyes and ears. It wasn't that. But to have the brain cells, you can't hear. Actually, there's a movie out there that was called The Accountant. Did you ever see that movie?
Oh, yeah. I like that.
Remember the song at the end of it? The thing that really got my attention was the song at the very end of the movie. And the key line in the song was, you can't read a book that you haven't written. Got to have the brain cells.
Yeah, I've watched it about 3 times. Probably due to watch it again,
Yeah. That song, that's like the standout line in that whole film, and I thought it was pretty powerful, was the insight to realize, and that's exactly what Yeshua was saying, is you got to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. That's exactly what you were just saying. Gee, this is such an exciting phrase. I just want to feel better. I'm going to get that website. And other people go, yeah. They don't have the brain cells. They don't have the eyes to see and the ears to hear what you see and hear in it. And that's why it takes time. The average person with this work, my observation is to really start to get what it is we're talking about, it takes them 5 to 10 years of engagement with this work to go, oh, now I see what you're talking about. Got to build the brain cells. And the parallel to that is you got to dump the stuff that blocks the higher awareness. You've got to forgive what never belonged within the structure. Were you around, by the way? I know Terry's from Sarasota. That's where I originally met Terry. Were you around when Don Jackson and I did the reading of The End of Suffering?
You know, I don't know, Michael. I was around the Unity. That's where I first met you. Was at Don's church, Unity. I don't remember if recall that particular reading because of that super experience I had in that first workshop. I was like walking around in amazement forever.
Till the mind takes over again.
Yeah.
You know, the ultimate act of healing is you got to be out of your mind. And when you get to do that, all of a sudden you get the richness of what the actuality of the world is, and it's just mind-boggling. And as long as we're locked into our minds, it's like, oh, well, now my mind says this and my mind says that. My mind does this, and I have this trauma and this pain and this blame. And got to be out of your mind. And it takes time to get loose of the grip of the mind.
You know, it's I took this little seminar thing 30 years ago or so, and these guys were actually trying to get people to sell insurance is what it boiled down to. But they brought you in and all this cloak and dagger stuff and got you in this classroom. And then the superstar salesman comes in there and he puts it out there. But he said one thing that was my takeaway. He said, out of all you people in here, he says, I'm not kidding myself. Most of y'all aren't going to do anything. He says, but I'll tell you what my what his little mantra was. And he says it was like a horse racing term. Is that you got to have 10,000 duds to get one stud when you're breeding horses. You know that one. I said that was, and you can apply it to a lot of things. I told Dan he was my stud. Dan's one of the 10,000 people that's listened to it, and baby, he's on fire. I'm so glad he's on the show, and that he's in that place where he's just ready and excited, and he's really digging into it. So I wanted to throw that one out there and acknowledge Dan.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm delighted, and I certainly hear that you need to have 10,000. You know, and over the years, I've watched people who've come to this work and then disappeared, and I've seen it take in one particular case. I'm thinking of a particular woman who had done, maybe a year or two of this work, and then one day just disappeared, gone, never heard from her, never saw her. And 10 years later, she's on the phone, all excited. Michael, I went to my books this morning. I was getting a book off the shelf, and your book fell and hit me in the head, and I realized I needed to read it. And I'm ready for an intensive. Is there an intensive going this week? I need to get there. And when people are ready, they're ready, and when they're not, they're not. And it takes, as I say, 5 to 10 years for people to really to build the brain cells, to really have for the mind to have the ability to even start to replicate, to produce an understanding of what it's really all about. Oftentimes the melody line of that song, "What's It All About, Elfie," goes through my head. And without the brain cells, people are introduced to this, they see somebody that's excited and they just go, duh, what are you talking about? That sounds pretty stupid to me. Until the things click, and then the mind can generate, these are the possibilities. Now we got something real going on.
Exactly. I love Shotgun Willie. It's a song by Willie Nelson, one of his early songs, and he sings in there, well, you can't make a record if you ain't got nothing to say. I think that's you can't make a record if you ain't got nothing to say. So you got to have some awareness there to connect with.
Yep. You can't read a book you haven't written.
There you go. Same thing.
Yep.
Similar.
Yep. That's it. Very cool. Well, I appreciate your dedication to the work and all the years you've been stepping in and stepping up and doing another piece and sharing it with other people. That's pretty awesome. And Dan, it's a delight to connect with you.
Yeah, he is something else. I think I enjoy working with Dan too, and I'm really excited about it.
Very well. I'm excited about your excitement. It's pretty cool, pretty sweet.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna let Jeanie dial in and see if there's anybody else waiting to talk.
All right, my friend. You have a blessed one. Lots of love.
You too, buddy.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, Miss Jeanie. We've got about, 35 minutes left. So what's happening?
Well, 24 minutes.
24,
we do not
okay.
have a hand up. Yeah. So if somebody has a question, press 1, and it'll put your hand up. Oh, we had a hand go up, and I believe this is Miss Susan, 610. You're on the air.
Hello, folks.
Well, hey there. How do you do, young lady? We haven't heard your voice in a while.
Well, and I missed most of the show because I'm still fussing with talking to doctors and blood people and so forth, trying to find out what's going on here. And so I'm sorry I missed whatever intro you did, Michael. I'm not even calling to comment on it because I didn't hear it. So
okay.
I hope you're all well and
we're rocking,
going okay.
Doing well.
Good.
Yes,
That's
yes.
great.
As a matter of fact, we're just moving forward.
Good.
In every arena.
Did you, I know it's a lot to ask and you're reading stuff all the time, but I sent you a short book called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment. I wondered if
it came in the mail yesterday afternoon. I actually ordered it.
It took.
I actually ordered it, and yep, I ended up ordering it. Yes, I got your copy of it too, and I can reach my hand over. It's just a little tiny. I was surprised. It's about a book that's about 4 by 6, and has a really cool blue mandala on the cover. And I haven't opened it yet. And I did get the link that you sent me, and we've been working on opening a new. We added about a 700 square foot space to our native species garden, and so we've been really focused on getting that done before the hot weather comes. And so I have not listened to the link that you sent me on YouTube, but it's in my plan.
That's fine. It's the same as the book. And I'm not sure whether it's the author reading it or not. He is no longer in the body. I think he died a few years ago, but it has been a huge help, partly just because he puts the work, different words, and comes at it from a different angle, and it helps me understand the tools.
That's awesome.
It's to me, it's just been massively exciting, particularly right now when I like to use your word. I'm in a healing crisis, but it's gone on a bit long. And I'm just hoping to come out the other side of it.
Well, we'll hold the space that you do, and that you keep breathing and embracing whatever's moving and coming up, and keying back into the presence of love.
Thanks. Any reports on Domas, Urate's boy?
You know, we've been communicating with her. We actually sent her an Avicen for him to use, and he had a bunch of friends. I think it was maybe something like 40 people that came over to his house a couple of weeks ago, and a bunch of them got their hair cut to go along with his chemo hair, which he's been losing. And they're doing a combination of chemo and some natural treatments, helping with his nutrition and such. And the last report was that he was pretty much free of pain.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And he's
Yeah,
been
I
having
have
a
heard
significant amount of it.
Have you? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeesh. Yeah, I've heard that people who do choose to do both have a less hard time with the harshness of chemo if they're on a clean diet and doing the
Yes.
homeopathic end of it too.
For sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. So how are you doing physiologically? What's happening?
Just extreme fatigue. I get energy enough to do what I need to do. I'm able to teach my class, but insomnia, fatigue, getting blood work done, it's coming in increments. There might be a thyroid issue. Who knows? I feel a little strange even dwelling on it, and I read Louise Hay. She said something about thyroid issues having to do with suppressing creativity, and I haven't had a sense that I've been suppressing that at all. It's been just a wonderful time of reviewing old works and writing new stuff, and so I don't understand that quite. So I guess I'm saying I'm in a state of curiosity and confusion. Not miserable, but I would love to get my mojo back. Just because I'm 79, I'm not accepting. I'm not accepting.
Rock and roll.
Right.
What's your body temperature?
Oh, it's usually a little under 97.
Tracking? Yeah.
No, I haven't. I might be able to do it. I have this watch. I told you about the watch. It tells me how long I slept. And it said that I had slept for an hour and a half. So I decided I wouldn't use the watch for sleeping.
Right.
Yeah, the body temperature, you have to wait. I've taken my basal temperature before in the morning. It's usually 97.2 or something. Oh, yeah, it's low. It's underneath 98.6.
Well, there is a protocol.
Does that mean anything?
Yes, it does. And I'm not directly acquainted with it, but you might want to talk to an endocrinologist about. There is a protocol for boosting the thyroid to get the body temperature back up to 98.6. The reason being that every 1/10 of a degree in body temperature reduces the proficiency of enzyme activities significantly.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
And so I know there was a friend of mine years ago that was a specialty of his. I've since lost touch with him, but he had a protocol where he would use a drug, and I don't remember what the drug was that he used, but he would it was a thyroid medication, but he would just put people on it for a very short period of time, like a week or 10 days, and that would give their thyroid a boost and get their temperature back up. So it might be worth just inquiring if there's an endocrinologist there that might be familiar with that protocol, and see if you can get your body temperature back up and get the enzymes, functioning more efficiently.
And it goes off the med and it stays up?
Yes.
Interesting. Yep. Well, it seems like I'm trying to tweak. Most of the blood work was in normal range. I went off the statin because I thought maybe that's making me tired, and I can't tell you whether it's going to be good off of it. My heart doctor is going to be mad, but my nutritionist says that my cholesterol is normal, blood pressure is normal. It's higher than it was after COVID. It went up 20 points, but it was so extremely low before that. She says it's kind of normal now.
Well, your COVID was probably a healing crisis then. Pulled your.
Oh, you think so?
Yes, ma'am. People who are doing their work through COVID, it's a healing process. It's not a disease process. At least that's my experience, my direct experience with my own physiology and Jeannie's as well.
Yeah. You know, you've said this, and I know it's true, but you have these adamant, knowledgeable doctors who will tell you adamantly that you need this drug, and then you have a person on the other side of the fence saying, oh my God, it has side effects and you don't want to do that, get off of it immediately. So
Right.
my nutritionist says, follow your gut. Well, my gut is totally mute. My gut's saying, hey, wait a minute, who's telling the truth here? I can't locate my gut at the moment. So it's hard to hear all the voices and decide what's best. And then, you know, you're always in danger of somebody gloating because you get sick because you didn't do their protocol. And anyway,
Right.
You seem to be pretty clear about all that stuff. That's good.
We'll hold the space that your gut reaffirms its activity and knowledge and gives you some guidance and direction. And you may find if you can get your body temperature up, that will help to, you know, put everything back in order.
That's so interesting. Nobody's ever mentioned that before. That's been down for years.
There's one piece of information I couldn't track where it came from at this point, but that every 1/10 of 1 degree that your body temperature goes up improves in excess of 50,000 enzyme activities.
Wow.
I'm not saying that's true or not true, but that's one person that I've, you know, several years ago conversed about this had said that's how key the temperature is.
Wow.
And of course, if enzymes aren't working, there's nothing, quote unquote, chemically that can happen in the body without an enzyme activity. Nothing. I mean, digestion, you know, blood manufacture, blood cleansing, liver, nothing happens without enzymes.
Yeah.
And so if you can get that temperature back up, that might just make a difference.
That is so interesting. Okay.
And if your blood pressure was so low and you had COVID and it came back to normal range, I would definitely class that as a healing crisis, not as a disease process. You know, you were obviously doing your work through the process. You know, but high
never
being
been that high. See? 120. Well, it depends on who you talk to. 100 or 110 over 80. Doesn't that sound high to you?
No, that doesn't sound high at all. Well, low end, that 80 number might be a little on the high side, but 110 certainly isn't. That sounds like a whole lot more normal than
90 over 60.
Yes.
Well,
so it may be time for just the next level of your work.
Well, I'm doing it, and this little book, I hope you like it, and it's a matter of maybe taste. It might not do anything for you, but I have read it a couple of times, and I'm listening to it every day, my morning walk. I put that guy on, and he talks to me, and my mind is blown and blown and blown. It's like taking
That's awesome.
What is it? Yeah. And it's all stuff you've been teaching. No separation. Owning your worksheet says, what part of me has done that? He'll say it. He just said it in a different way. He said, when you feel as if you've reached a high, just keep in mind that the opposite is happening as well, and it never stops. You are the full spectrum at all times. We are all equal, absolutely equal. As soon as you feel as if you're better than or worse than, you're in error. He says, you're stupid. You'll like him. He's a self-styled guy. The one thing you'll object to, and I don't pay attention to, is he got to his first enlightenments by using LSD. And he doesn't recommend it. directly, but he says whether you're on LSD or weed or whatever you're doing, however you get there, this, that, and the other. And I'm saying, well, he is basically saying you can get there without it, but he had experiences with it. In fact, one of his most dramatic experiences was he went into terrible darkness. It's sort of like the darkness you probably felt when you saw the constellations in such need, all your generations saying, help, help.
Right.
He said, I was heading down and I was floundering. I was in a bad way. And then the thought came to me, and this is your worksheet, well, what isn't there in here that doesn't deserve love? And he said as soon as he had that thought, he was kicked to the other end of the universe. He was in bliss.
Mm.
And so that's his approach to life.
So my take would be my take would be is he allowed himself to drop into the deepest darkness he'd been carrying, what we've been talking about, that everybody has to face. And when you bring the active presence of love to that space, healing happens. That's just the way it works.
Yeah.
It's the bottom baseline principle of the healing process.
Mm-hmm. But you've been teaching that, and I've been practicing it, but what is it about the brain that somehow, even though I understood that, I understood it on a different level. Nothing changed except that somehow it was even more profoundly accessible having listened to this guy. So I go back to the worksheet on another level.
Well, you've heard me say before that, the bottom line is building the brain cells, and that nobody, you teach the forgiveness process in your support group, and there'll be people that'll hear it from you that will never hear it from me because of your particular vibration, your energy. And that's why when you introduce something that I haven't heard before, it's like, okay, I want some, because I don't know what that person's vibration, that person's approach, what that person's experience is going to add to my experience, but it's the questions that open the space for that to happen that's really important.
Right. He does have these little, he talks about himself in the most modest way. He'll say, when I'm really in a weird place or I'm really feeling lousy, he continually admits that he is still swinging from dark to light, but he says, I've come up with these little sayings. I'm looking around in here to find a couple of them, and you will want to correct his language because he'll say, for instance, no resistance. Well, you would say, allow all, or you would make it a positive. You turn it,
soften, open.
Turn it around. Yeah. He'll say, if you really dislike somebody, love yourself for disliking them. That's like that guy, what's his name? I can't remember. And the title of his book is Whatever's Happening, Love That. Something, the guy. Yeah. We all know him. I can't remember his name right now.
Susan, somebody in the chat room wants to know the name of the book again and the guy that you're talking about.
It's called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment. And you can tell he's got a great sense of humor. And his name is Thaddeus Golas, Golas. It's a very short book.
Thank you, Thaddeus.
Oh, yeah. Go beyond reason to love. It is safe. It is the only safety. He just has these little things that you can pull out if you're feeling lousy. But you'll enjoy him very much, I think. He expresses his own feelings, of his ambivalence about even writing the book. He starts out, I am a lazy man. Laziness keeps me from believing that enlightenment demands effort, discipline, strict diet, non-smoking, or other evidences of virtue. That's about the worst heresy I could propose, but I have to be honest before I can be reverent. Oh, you love it? Just the
That's
best.
pretty good. That's pretty good.
It
That
is
sounds
good.
like a character.
He is a character.
Yeah.
He
And
has
that
sort of
sounds kind of like.
demystified. Yeah.
Say it again.
He's demystified enlightenment for me. I've always thought once you get there, then you're there. He says no, you go in and out. That's been his experience. What were you going to say, Michael?
There's another good book out there named Chop Wood and Carry Water. And the question that it posits is, before enlightenment, what do you do? Chop wood and carry water. After enlightenment, what do you do? Chop wood and carry water. Life goes on. You still live.
Yeah.
But there's also another film, if you get a chance to see it. We just watched it the other night, came across it kind of by accident. And it's really well done from several points of view. It'll give you the opportunity to do some breathing. And it's called... Just a minute. Let me reach for the package. It's called Flamin' Hot.
Oh.
It's a true story.
Mm-hmm.
It's at this point, I don't know whether it's available anywhere else besides on Disney. I don't know whether it's coming to theaters or what, but it's a true story about a poor Mexican kid who is brought up in a really rough environment, and it's totally a true story. He's brought up, abused, and he's in America and looked down on and beat up by kids at school and all of that. Pretty rough life until he meets a girl that she's covered in bruises from her father beating her, and he's got the same, so they identified each other, became friends, and ultimately marry. He's had a pretty rough time of it. They're selling drugs in L.A. or wherever it was, in order to create cash flow. And then she gets pregnant, and he decides he needs to clean up his life. So he struggles and fights and struggles, and finally gets a job with Frito-Lay as a janitor.
Oh my God.
And the economy is going down at the time this happens. Again, this is a true story. The economy is going down, and they're going to close the factory that he's working at. And the CEO of the company sends around a video for all the employees, sort of a rah-rah. And one of the things he says on the video is, think like a CEO. I want every one of our employees to think like a CEO. So this Mexican guy who had to force his way into the job, he didn't even know how to read or write to fill out the application, and almost got thrown out when the guy who was interviewing him found out that he didn't fill the guy says, did you fill this application out? And he says, well, no, actually I can't read and write. Well, get out of here. And this guy is like, look, I'm a hard worker, I'm smart, I'll do the job, and I'll do it well. So the guy hires him. Well, after hearing this video and the company's going down the tubes because the economy's bad, he decides that there's got to be a way to save the factory. And he goes to his boss, and his idea is, well, there are millions of Mexicans in America that are being ignored by companies like, we spend money on snacks like everybody else, but we want this hot, spicy food, and you don't give it to us.
Yeah.
And he goes to his boss with that, and his boss kind of poo-poos him, just get back out there and sweep the floor. So he sneaks into his boss's office, and he gets the phone number of the CEO, and he calls the CEO and says, I have an idea, and I'm going to save this factory. Well, make a long story short, because we're just about through with showtime, and the show's going to cut us off. The last frame of the movie is a picture of him as they're giving him his going away party when he retires after 40 years as a multicultural marketing director for the company, because he saved the factory and he brought a whole new line of products on called Flaming Hot. And Jeanie and I actually went out yesterday. That's why I reached over. I've got the package here, and bought a package of them. We've never eaten them before. But he actually created a whole industry. He was the janitor. And I mean, it's a really heartwarming, it's a faith-based story. You know, his wife is like, you know, we can do this. And anyway, it's really well done. It's a very enjoyable movie and has some very, very good points in it. So if you get a chance to watch Flaming Hot. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for the synopsis, too. It's a great story. Love it. Okay.
It is.
Well, thanks.
Very heartwarming.
Yeah.
All right, young lady, we appreciate you. Lots of love and blessings.
Thanks. You too.
Say hello to Tim for us. All right. Take care. Thanks for joining us, everybody. The best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. You can give it. The world needs it. It's time. Blessings. Bye-bye.